everyone, this is Muskan and welcome back to another video. So the book that we're going to be reviewing today is The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. For anyone who does not know, The Final Gambit is the last book in the Inheritance Games series. The Inheritance Games series has three main books: The Inheritance Games, The Hawthorne Legacy, and The Final Gambit. So today I'm going to be reviewing the last book in the Inheritance Games series. If you want to check out my reviews for the first two books, I'm going to link them in the description below, so be sure to check it out. So for those of you who don't know what the Inheritance Games is about, it's about a girl named Avery who randomly becomes an heiress to $1 billion fortune. This fortune is left to her by the late billionaire Tobias Hawthorne, who is now dead and has not given any explanation for it. The book has a lot of puzzles and mysteries, and it's a very fun read. So if you've not started the series, I think you should definitely go check it out. So I gave both of the first two books in the series a 4.5 stars out of 5. I loved both of them. I loved the air of mystery that was there throughout the first two books. When I went into the Final Gambit, I was again not disappointed, for the most part. The Final Gambit was the perfect ending to the Inheritance Game series. It closed off all the loose ends beautifully, and I was just really satisfied with the ending. And that's all I'm gonna say for the non-spoilery part of the video. If you've not read the third book, you should just go and read it. Now let's get to it. So we start off the Final Gambit on a happy note. We start off with Avery's birthday, and Jameson has planned it out very beautifully. And post all the niceties of Avery's birthday, we are then introduced to Eve, who's basically a carbon copy of Emily Laughlin, the girl who died. And because Jameson had already worked through all of his issues, it was Grayson who was affected the most by Eve. So when we're first introduced to Eve, I really wanted to like her. I really wanted Jennifer to turn her into an anti-hero, because technically Eve is the one who can threaten Avery in all of her life runs. She can threaten her fortune since she is the actual daughter of Toby Hawthorne. She already threatens her connection with Toby. Like Avery had her own relationship with Toby when he was Henry, and he loved her and she loved him. But he has recently found out that he has a biological daughter as well. So that one connection that Avery had to her mother, even though he was not her father, that is also threatened by Eve. And last but not the least, she looks like Emily Laughlin. So of course she can threaten her connections with both Jameson and Grayson. And because all of these odds were stacked against Eve, as we get to know about her, we are supposed to envision a threat incoming. She was supposed to be a villainess, and when we are introduced to her, she does not seem like a threat from the get-go. Jameson, since he has already worked through his issues regarding Emily, he is not affected by her. But Grayson is, and he suddenly becomes a jerk. And I knew that Avery and Jameson would end up together, right? I said that in the Inheritance Games as well. But I've been saying this since the Hawthorne Legacy, that they need to stop doing Grayson so dirty. In the Hawthorne Legacy, when the bomb blast happened, he did not run towards Avery, and there was no concrete explanation for it either. And in this book, he sees Eve. She looks like Emily, and suddenly Grayson does not trust Avery. He trusts Eve more. He wants to go everywhere with Eve. And I know it's obviously also related to the fact that Avery chose Jameson, but still, I just really want to demand justice for Grayson Hawthorne. That guy had so much potential to make the plot of this book, especially in the love triangle area, much more complicated than it was. I think for the love triangle, the plot of the Inheritance Games was not good at all. And that is the only major thing that I do not like about this series, is the romance in it. I was not feeling the romance with Jameson, I was not feeling the tension with Grayson, and I did not understand the love triangle at all. But what this book did better than the previous two was to put Jameson and Avery's relationship in cement. Like, they are solid now. None of this will they, won't they nonsense. We know that Avery and Jameson are there, and now we can focus on the game. So why we meet Eve is because Toby has been taken hostage, and we don't know who has taken him hostage yet. Eve comes to Avery for help. She wants to find Toby, and she tries to assure Avery that she's not here for the fortune. She doesn't care. She just wants her dad back. And honestly, I almost believed her. But we'll get to that. So in the meantime, another major thing that happens is Avery getting another clue from Tobias Hawthorne. From the previous book, we didn't think that there were any more games left, but thank God we were wrong. By solving that game, we solved the biggest mystery of the Inheritance game series, which is why Avery Grams was left the fortune of Tobias Hawthorne. And I know that a lot of people out there are not very happy with that reasoning of Tobias Hawthorne. And I totally understand that. It is a little anticlimactic, but that's the beauty of it, right? Even though it's anticlimactic, we know that Tobias Hawthorne would definitely do something like that. Since he was such a powerful and rich man, he needed a scapegoat, because after his death, all his enemies would come for his fortune and his family. And that's why he chose Avery. He had been watching Avery for many years now. He wanted to save his family, but he didn't want to pick a random person to give his fortune to. He found Avery and he knew there was some connection between Toby and Avery. And after watching her all of these years, he actually just took a very risky gamble. And even though I agree that it is anticlimactic, but what else could it have been, right? If Avery had turned out to be a Hawthorne by some way, it would be too obvious. And that's why I think this is the most perfect and the most satisfactory reason that we could have gotten. And when Avery finds all of this out, she is enraged. She obviously hates Tobias Hawthorne. And that's why he wrote, "I am sorry" in his letter to Avery, because he was just putting a target on her back. But all of this also confirmed that Tobias Hawthorne knew about Eve, his granddaughter, and still chose to leave all of his fortune to Avery. So after finding out what kind of a pawn Avery was in Tobias Hawthorne's game, we also find out that the person who has Toby is Vincent Blake, his biological grandfather. And I'm not going to go through the whole plot of this book because that gets really confusing. I'm just gonna touch the major plot points and how they made me feel. So basically, Vincent Blake is now the big bad guy that we have to defeat. He was Tobias Hawthorne's mentor. So Tobias double-crossed him and went on to make millions, whereas Vincent Blake did not do anything about it. But Vincent Blake's son, William, short for Liam, he was around 15 when Tobias double-crossed Vincent. He did not really understand the full extent of the betrayal. He knew that his dad had been betrayed, and to prove himself to Vincent Blake, he decided to infiltrate Tobias's home through Mallory Laughlin, Emily and Rebecca's mom. He basically got her pregnant when Mallory was underage, and when Mallory wanted to be with him and raise their child together, he basically abandoned her. He abandoned her in front of Tobias and the grandfather Laughlin. I forgot his name, but Mr. Laughlin, if you will. Mallory became so enraged that she picked up a stone or a brick or something and hit his head. And basically he did not die at that point. Tobias asked Mr. Laughlin to take Mallory away, and Tobias just watched him die and took care of the body. He never told Mr. Laughlin what he did to it, and Mr. Laughlin never asked. So basically Mallory, Mr. Laughlin and Tobias were all party to the murder of Vincent Blake's son and Toby's father. Yeah, so that is the grudge of Vincent Blake, and what he wants are the remains of his son, and that's why he is going after Avery right now. So Avery and the Hawthorns go on a chase, another game, to find the remains of Vincent Blake's son. And when they finally find it, Avery calls the cops and gives the remains to them. And that's why I love Avery so much as a main character. She is so refreshing. Most of the young characters in YA novels are really frustrating. They take the most stupid decisions possible in a situation. And that's why I love Avery. And seeing Avery take such a smart decision in such a high-stakes situation really just made me like her even more. She was able to think that if she gave Vincent the remains as it is, without going to the cops first, he will definitely use it against her, and he would have. And she foresaw that and avoided that whole plotline altogether, and that was really amazing. So at this point, Vincent Blake has both Grayson and Toby as hostages. Avery goes to him, tells him that the body is with the police officers, and for the finale of this book, we are in a setting where Vincent Blake has put Avery, Toby and Eve in sort of a chess tournament. And in this situation, all three of them will be playing one match against each other. So 2 matches each. And depending on how many matches you win or lose, you get something or you lose something. So Toby chooses to lose both of his matches. So Toby chooses to lose his match against Eve, because of course she is his daughter, even though she double-crossed them. But then Avery went on to beat him fair and square. So at this point, Toby has lost both of his matches, and he has now become Toby Blake and will be living with Vincent Blake and his family. So game over for him. And now in the second match, when Eve and Avery are playing, Avery knows that she can beat Eve easily, and with a promise of not being blackmailed about Sheffield Grayson's death in her lifetime. But as she was about to win, she realized that she would never be truly free of Vincent Blake with that offer. So she chooses to lose her match against Eve, playing with the one clue that Tobias Hawthorne left her against Vincent. So she decides to lose against Eve so that she can play Vincent Blake. Tobias Hawthorne told her that Vincent would underestimate her because she's a child and a woman, and she used that perfectly to her advantage. After losing to Eve in front of him, Eve was promised Vincent's whole fortune, so that's strike one. And then after losing to her, she made herself look very desperate and sort of gave a double or nothing offer to Vincent Blake. She wanted to play against him. If she wins, he would just leave her alone for the rest of her life. And if she loses, she would give her fortune in a trust to him till she turns 30. And Vincent Blake played right into her hand, Avery won, and that was the most satisfying ending ever. All in all, I'm gonna give the Final Gambit a 4 stars out of 5. I gave the Inheritance Games and the Hawthorne Legacy both a 4.5 stars out of 5. But why I'm gonna give the Final Gambit a 4 stars, even though I loved the book and I loved the ending, is because of two things. First, I was hoping for a little more complexity in Eve, but she turned out to be a very two-dimensional character indeed. And second was that there was not a very big plot twist or a shocking factor or a moment in which I just basically threw the book on the bed and screamed, which definitely happened when I found out that Henry was Toby. I mean, I don't know how it could have happened. Maybe, somebody from the Hawthorne family who we trusted and loved could have turned out to be a villain, or Libby could have gone back to Drake. I was just hoping for some jaw-dropping drama, which I did not get. But that is just me nitpicking. I think all in all, the series has ended very beautifully. I love the Inheritance Game series. And any of you guys who are still watching, if you have any similar recommendations for me, I would be really, really grateful if you put them down in the comments below. So that's it for the review, guys. Hope you liked it. Let me know your thoughts on the series in the comments below and we can discuss it together. See you next time. Do not forget to like, share and subscribe.